In the 2018 summer exams, fewer than 40% of students achieved above half marks in AQA English Language Paper 1 Question 2, proving once again that this question is less about spotting language choices and more about writing about their effect in a manner which is precise and contextualised. In this video, we'll look at how to do just that.
AQA English Language Paper 1 Question 2 assesses the language element of Assessment Objective 2. Explain, comment on and analyse how writers use language and structure to achieve effects and influence readers using relevant subject terminology to support their view. Now in this exam, what we mean by language analysis is pointed out in the bullet points of the question. A writer's use of words, phrases, language features and techniques, and sentence forms. In this question, you're given a section of the text, historically around 6 to 10 lines in length, and asked to analyse how the writer uses language. Let's look at a typical question based on the sample paper which you can download free of charge at mrbruff.com. Look in detail at this extract from lines 8 to 17 of the source. How does the writer use language here to describe the setting? You could include the writer's choice of words and phrases, language features and techniques, sentence forms. Now it's worth pointing out that those bullet points could be followed, but you don't have to cover all three, especially if you run out of time before you can do so. In fact, in the November 2018 paper, the examiner's report pointed out that there were no sentence forms worthy of analysis in that particular extract of the text. So the key thing about these 3 bullet points is that you could write about all 3, but you don't have to. As an 8-mark question, you really only want to spend around 10 minutes on question 2, and yet many students spend way longer because there are just so many different examples you could write about. However, you don't have to write about everything you find. Obviously, if you spend too long on this relatively low mark question, you're going to run out of time on the longer, higher mark questions to come. So keep an eye on the clock and don't go over 10 minutes or so. Now, the assessment objective for question 2 refers to the use of relevant subject terminology. And this has led some students to approach the question as if it's all about feature spotting, looking out for similes and metaphors, personification, that kind of thing. But this question is not simply about identifying and labelling language features, it's all about effect. And the mark scheme makes it very clear that you can only achieve half marks at best if you write about generic effects, such as this is powerful, or it draws the reader in, or creates a picture in our heads. So the key thing to this question is to be specific about the effects the writer's language choices have, or to explain the reason behind the writer's choices. One way to do this is to read the extract and ask yourself, what is the specific effect the writer's trying to achieve? Now, sometimes it might be an emotional effect, like creating a sense of fear or mystery, and sometimes it might be something else, like revealing something key about a character. And it's not necessarily only one thing. For example, an extract might use contrasting positive and negative language to symbolise the contrast between a character's dreams and their reality. So let's look at the extract and ask ourselves, what is the specific effect the writer's trying to achieve? Brightly had a home, the river saw to that. Not the Tavy, but the less romantic Tor. On the western side of Corsand are many gorges in the great cleft cut by the Tor between Belstone and Sticklepath. These narrow and deep clefts have been made by the persistent water draining down to the Tor from the bogs above. In the largest of these clefts, Brightly was at home. The sides were completely hidden by willow scrub, immense ferns and clumps of whortleberries, as well as by overhanging masses of granite. The water could be heard dripping below like a chime of fairy bells. In winter, the cleft appeared a white cascade of falling water, but Brightly's cave was fairly dry and quite sheltered. He had built up the entrance with shaped stones taken from the long-abandoned copper mines below. The cleft was full of copper, which stained the water a delightful shade of green. So what effect is the writer looking for here? Well, of course there's more than one possible answer, but I'd certainly say that the language is used to make the setting sound idyllic and appealing. And once you're clear on the effect, then you can pick out words, phrases, language features, techniques and sentence forms that create that effect. But remember, it's not enough just to spot one of these things. You need to be able to clearly explain the effect it has, avoiding vague and generalized comments that could be applied to any text. So let's finish this video by looking at a sample paragraph. The writer describes the setting in a way that makes it sound idyllic. The sound of water resembles a chime of fairy bells. This simile conveys how delicate and pretty the sound was, and emphasises how lovely it would have been to hear if you lived there. It's almost as if the surroundings are magical and trying to resemble a real home for Brightly, who lives outside like a homeless person. The fairy bells describe a magical, sentimental world that perhaps provides an escape for Brightly's difficult existence.
I hope you found this video useful. If you'd like to see a longer video on this question, then you can see one just here. Click on the screen and you'll be taken to that video. Please do subscribe to the channel.